Keith Murray is back. The rapper is making music again after serving time behind bars for a crime he says he didn't commit. Kathleen Trigg has the story.
The most beautifulest thing in this world, and just like that, I get in you.
He was at the top of his game. Former Def Squad rapper Keith Murray had his career all laid out. Fame, a record deal, and a hit song at the top of the charts. But it all came crashing down in 1996 when the rapper was convicted in a nightclub brawl that left a 16-year-old Connecticut boy severely injured, a charge which Murray and several celebrity supporters who rallied for his release said he was getting a bum rap for.
They put it on me because of my fame, and they thought I had all this money, saw me on TV, and then my world just started crumbling.
Murray served 30 months of a 5-year sentence before an eyewitness finally came forward to say he had been wrongfully convicted.
Me and God know that the situation I didn't do. I maintain my innocence to this day, but I had to go through it. And now he's rewarding me tenfold.
He told me that experience taught him success comes with a stiff price.
Give me an idea of what it was like spending 30 months of your life away from your talent, locked up.
Well, the talent thing, it was good for me to be away and to nourish my talent and develop it, but being away from my family was really a painful situation. Can you imagine waking up to the same nightmare every day?
But putting all that behind him, the rapper says he's ready to bounce back. He signed a solo deal with Def Jam Records and wants to show the world the new and improved Keith Murray.
I haven't scratched the surface of my talents and the things that I can achieve in the music industry.
Back in the studio now, Keith says his time spent on lockdown only made him bigger and stronger as a rapper. He's already working on a track for the upcoming movie Rush Hour 2 soundtrack and his new album, which he promises will be hotter than ever.
Sky's the limit. Just, mental elevation. I have a new deal, and I feel that, a lot of nice things coming my way.
Not only is he grown, he is one of the greatest rappers there is. I don't know. It's just, I just can't wait to hear the album.
So what can we expect from Keith in the future? He says he had time to do a lot of thinking and writing while in prison. Like a rhyme he sampled for me, he calls Man-Child.
The sun will shine, even when it rains. Emotionally and physically, I feel your pain.
If you want to hear the rest of it, you'll have to wait for the album, which Def Jam says won't be released till next year. Kathleen Trigg, UPN 9 News.
Well, California, here she comes. Oprah Winfrey is buying a mansion near Santa Barbara for $50 million. That's about 90 minutes from L.A. The property has 42 acres overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It's being called one of the most expensive residential property deals ever in California.
Whitney Houston will be getting a big award from Black Entertainment Television. During the BET Awards, Houston will receive the first Lifetime Achievement Award. The Grammy winner is being honored because of her many accomplishments in film and music.
And it's going to mean months of disruptions and some evacuations. Bob O'Brien is outside that meeting right now. Bob?
John, hundreds of people came here to Mount St. Michael Academy in the North Bronx tonight to be briefed by federal EPA brass and police and fire officials from New York City and the city of Mount Vernon, which is 2 blocks away from this school. The problem is an abandoned warehouse on South 14th Avenue in Mount Vernon, located right on the Bronx border in a heavily populated neighborhood. Inside and outside the warehouse, there's an unknown number of deteriorating drums and boxes containing shock-sensitive explosive substances used in detonating devices. There's also benzene, gasoline, and a number of other flammable acids and chemicals. This week, the cleanup will begin, but repackaging and transporting the chemicals is so dangerous that elaborate staged evacuation plans have been made. EPA spokesman Rich Cahill explains that the risk area may widen as the cleanup progresses.
We would sort of fan it out to a 1-block radius. That would involve about 400 people.
To evacuate?
To evacuate. If
How
there
often?
isn't, this would be depending on how quickly we can move the really dangerous material out of the building. I would say 2 or 3 days a week for a 4 to 8 week period. And then in the event of a real problem, that would be a fire in the building, which could cause an explosion. Then sirens would go off and we would move people out within a 4-block radius. We're talking about 5,000 people.
If there were to be some kind of catastrophic explosion, how wide an area could be affected?
We really can't judge that. We've estimated that if something were to occur, we've set the sites for transporting the materials at a radius of 1,000 feet. So when we transport any of the product in there, we will evacuate up to that 1,000-foot radius so that there will be nobody in here. We're concerned with their safety.
The owners of the warehouse, two brothers, Charles and Jack Colbert, are now serving 13-year jail terms for selling hazardous and impure chemicals to a company in Zimbabwe. For years, lawyers working for the Colbert brothers kept inspectors out of the building. Those court moves continued even after the Colberts were jailed last summer. The mess they left behind is terrifying people who live near the warehouse. Norma Melendez and her family live less than 50 feet away from the rear loading dock.
Well, you have an explosion there, I'm sure it will hit over here. And then what? I just don't know what to tell you. We're just afraid. We really are.
And it's probable that you're going to be asked to evacuate your home several times over the next couple months.
Exactly, and that's an inconvenience for everyone. And I have a family. Where do we go? I work fine, but what about my elderly parents that are here? Where do I send them?
Hundreds of people inside the Mount St. Michael Academy gym in the Bronx threw hundreds of similar questions at federal and local officials tonight. Mount Vernon resident Dan Bryant lives 1 block from the explosive-filled warehouse.
My primary concern would be evacuation, what steps would be taken to evacuate, what steps would be taken to protect our homes in terms of vandalism, looting, those kind of things.
The biggest question, of course, is, can this extremely dangerous cleanup be accomplished without a disaster? One sure thing. The vile legacy left behind by Charles and Jack Colbert will long be remembered by folks in this area. Reporting live from the Bronx, Bob O'Brien, Channel 5 News.
All right, Bob. Tonight the police are telling us that a young father...
Things get worse, and as Jim Dolan tells us now, things are already bad enough.
The sign says danger, and indeed there is danger in the warehouse and for the people who live near it. Dozens of explosive and toxic chemicals are inside this building, dumped with little regard for the families who live near it. Guards patrol the building to prevent kids from trying to get inside. Among the chemicals being stored here are ether, nitrocellulose, and pitric acid, all of which are explosives. So, while the chemicals are being removed from here, all of the people within a 3-block radius will have to be evacuated. The threat of an explosion and the certainty of an evacuation have all the residents here upset about the way this very dangerous situation has been handled. Hundreds of those folks gathered in a nearby high school gym tonight to learn about just how dangerous the warehouse is and what precautions they should take.
I think it's been going on, and I think we've been in the backgrounds, and nobody has informed us about what was going on, and we're a little disturbed about it.
Do you think people are...
We're also to their homes because of a chemical cleanup. And as Channel 2's David Goldstein reports on the Night Beat, people there are frightened and angry.
They came armed with questions and demanded answers. Hundreds of residents of Mount Vernon in the Bronx turned out tonight to question officials of the Environmental Protection Agency. They are concerned and frightened because they are now living in what is considered to be a risk area. A risk because of this abandoned warehouse loaded with flammable and explosive materials. The warehouse is right on the border of Mount Vernon and the Bronx. 5,000 people live in the affected area. Some may have to be evacuated from a 4-block radius around the warehouse with only 1 or 2 days' notice. Officials say the evacuations of the individual residents could last only a few hours, enough time for the chemicals to be moved out at various stages. During that time, residents who live in the affected areas will have to stay with friends or relatives or move to one of the designated evacuation sites.
It's a dangerous site. It's one that we need to be very concerned about, and that's why we're taking every precaution that we are.
But the warehouse is located right in the middle of a residential area, and people who live here are concerned.
What happens if this stuff, they drop a drum or something? What's safety? What guarantees do we have?
It's a big farce, in plain English. This condition existed a long time ago. They've been doing nothing but covering it up for almost maybe 10 months.
The cleanup will start tomorrow and could last 8 months. Until then, residents say they'll be living in fear. In the Bronx, David Goldstein, Channel 2 News, on the Night Beat.
Two families battling over one
idea. while others questioned its possible effectiveness.
I think that would be a great thing to do, to have done.
One of the teenagers arrested in the Howard Beach racial attack was sent to jail today. Frank Grimes reports.
John Lester is 17 years old. Today, a Queens judge sentenced him to 1 to 3 years in jail for possessing a loaded gun last August. When Lester was convicted of carrying the gun, Judge Rotker told him that if he stayed out of trouble, he'd sentence Lester to probation. But last month, Lester and 2 other whites were arrested for the racial attack of 3 black men in Howard Beach. One of the men, Michael Griffith, was killed by a car as he ran from the group, who were beating him and the others with sticks and baseball bats. Today, the judge told Lester he was sending him to jail because he broke his promise. Brian Levinson, Lester's attorney in the attack case, said that wasn't fair.
The fact that a person is arrested, and especially in this case where there's no corroborating affidavit signed by anyone, there's been no testimony before a grand jury, and none of the alleged victims or any independent witness testified.
Levinson is referring in part to Cedric Sandiford. He was one of the men attacked with Griffith. Sandiford, shown here with his attorneys, is not cooperating with the Queens DA's office, which is investigating the case. Neither is Timothy Grimes, the 3rd victim of the attack. The case is further complicated by the fact that a detective, without an attorney present, took a statement from Lester that outlined his involvement as the alleged ringleader in the attack on the 3 black men. Because the attorney wasn't there, it's possible that Lester's incriminating statement may not be admissible as evidence at his trial. Did John Lester take part in the beating of Griffith, Grimes, and Sandiford?
I don't know. Let me hear some accusations that say he did. Let me hear Mr. Sandiford. Let me hear Mr. Grimes. Let me see some independent evidence, and then we'll try it in a courtroom, and you can sit in and evaluate yourself.
Queens District Attorney John Santucci has 6 months to bring the case to trial. He says because the victims won't testify, right now he's trying to find more witnesses who can identify the attackers.
Of the land of the mother, word the mother, king like my father. My sound survived slave ships, whips and chains, hardships. Still through all this, the praise roll off my lips. Bring your guns, change the tongue, force your religion on me. Cut my hair, the vibe still exists to destroy the molesters of my heritage. What they conceal, the drums reveal. My royal lineage, king of kings, god of gods. Like my ancestors' drums, I beat the odds. More mics are killed than slaves during the Middle Passage. Who rapes and ravages and calls us savage? Jungle bunny, I'm not more funny, I'm more deadly. They know one day we'll learn how to use it. That's why they fear our jungle music. My sounds make devils tumble like the wall of Jericho. Chant my power to devour all the snakes and rats. Extrasensory perception to avoid all traps. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord. In the sanctuary of your caves, white kids press record. As my mystic music spread from sea to galaxy. It's inevitable, you can't stop me. Try and carbon copy, but it always comes out sloppy. You can't out-rap me, you can't out-rock me. Like the dreads on my head, you try to lock me down underground, but I bounce to the jungle. Melodies that flows like the breeze through the trees, like my forefathers command the wind and seas with my jungle music. Sound warrior, I take your head more than a rap singer. Enlightener with the mitre, make the forces of my nature smite ya. Over the airwaves, powers are released. Holy music, destroy the savage beast. I beat the devil like a Nyabingi drummer. Beats his drum, this beat will drum through the summer. Try and hold us back with all the strength you can muster. You'll hear a sound similar to the one Custer heard before he got ambushed. You'll get ambushed. We're taking this back to Kush. For too long you've abused it, on the low used it, and called it jungle music.
Pop singer and model Tyrese will soon make his movie debut in Baby Boy. Pat Collins talked with Tyrese about the impact the movie will have on his life.
Assuming the title role in Baby Boy is not without a career risk for Tyrese. With his megawatt smile, model good looks, MTV VJ job, and upbeat music, Tyrese is identified with good times and the good life. That image is about to change.
Look, man, the car broke and the engine needs fixing.
Ain't my problem.
Jody, wait!
It was definitely an emotional roller coaster for me. There's no coaching that I could have had within the period of time that could ever prepare me for a John Singleton lead role.
Baby Boy brings John Singleton back to South Central 10 years after he directed Boys in the Hood. The film brings Tyrese Gibson back to the place he grew up 22 years ago.
This character was not far-fetched from me at all. Me being born and raised in Watts, my focus has always been to be the contradiction of what people see or heard comes out of Watts. But when they see this film, from here on out, when I tell people I'm from Watts, they're gonna see it.
This is an all-purpose style, all-purpose dress. You know what that means, all-purpose. You can wear this to work and go straight to happy hour.
Tyrese's character has put growing up on hold. Irresponsible and spoiled, he fathered a child out of wedlock, but still lives with his mother and objects to her new boyfriend, played by Ving Rhames.
Just why you gotta let the man live here? He a killer just like Henry was. And you got him up in the kitchen, scrambling eggs and drinking up all the Kool-Aid?
For his movie star debut, Tyrese found some of the scenes very difficult.
Sex scenes, very tough and very private. Those were very tough. 2 scenes in a movie, I had to cry. Very tough. I'm not a crier.
And then there was the issue of Tyrese putting on the urban gear of his past.
It's a trip because when you put on that outfit, it kind of takes over you. You know, it takes over the way you stand, the way you walk. It takes over your energy. You almost feel uncomfortable to smile when you put on the uniform.
Tyrese's big movie break comes just a few weeks after the release of his 2000 Watts album, and he is emphatic about which career comes first.
I'm not looking to be the next Will Smith. I only do what I do outside of music to sell more records.
I like them girls that's define me. I like them girls in the black blue chain.
Baby Boy will be in theaters June 27th. I'm Pat Collins, UPN 9 News. A whole other side to Tyrese.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
And if you stay with us for a couple more minutes.
Long Island have cracked a murder case. They say they've got the killer of a young woman, and they say her car helped police catch the suspect. Julia Chavez explains.
For days, detectives had been searching for this 1999 gold Grand Am. It belonged to Deborah Banoff. Banoff was last seen leaving her home in Bohemia on Wednesday morning. When she didn't show up for work, co-workers called her family. The 29-year-old's body later turned up in the woods near a train station in nearby Deer Park. Police say Banoff was gagged, her hands and feet were bound, her head bludgeoned. Police say the man behind the vicious crime, Joseph Melville from Central Islip. He was caught in Farmingdale Sunday afternoon with the key piece of evidence. Police say a witness spotted the suspect driving Banoff's car. She recognized the license plate from news reports. She dialed 911 but continued following Melville until he stopped here at this OTB. When cops arrived, the witness pointed out Melville and police immediately placed him under arrest. Cops say Melville was a suspect since the beginning. He worked in the same industrial complex in Hauppauge as Banoff and hadn't been to work since the murder. He also had prior convictions for accosting women and robbery. According to cops, the 36-year-old watched Banoff and knew when she opened the office each day. They say he developed a plan to rob her.
She arrived at work, he accosted her, he overpowered her, he placed her into her own vehicle and drove her from the scene.
Investigators say at first Melville only intended to rob the victim, but then they say he went further. He took the victim in the woods and allegedly sexually abused her and then killed her using a cement block.
I think he was hopeful to get cash and money. She didn't have any cash or valuables with her.
Police say Melville drove off with the victim's car and her purse. He had been on the run since. People at the company where Banoff worked were shocked. Off camera, they told us she would be missed. Melville is charged with first-degree murder. In Suffolk County, Julia Chavez, UPN 9 News.
A robber got more than he bargained for when he held up a bank today in Greenwich Village. He got away with a sack of money, but when he opened the bag of loot, he got one big surprise. It exploded. Dick Brennan is live right now in the Village with that story. Dick?
Well, Cora Ann, Willie Sutton said he robs banks because that's where the money is. In this case, it also was where the exploding red dye pack is. The idea is to catch the bad guys red-handed. Well, also in this case, the bad guy got away, but the money didn't. It was a case of take the money and run at the Dime Bank in Greenwich Village this afternoon. The robber took off with the loot down 6th Avenue to the West 4th Street station, but then his plot blew up in his face. The bag was rigged with dye and a tear gas like smoke. When he opened it, it exploded.
The gas was expelled into the air. It was a form of CS, which is tear gas, mixed with a dye and a propellant. It caused some minor eye and throat irritation.
The gas injured 4 people and 2 transit cops. The station was evacuated. The robber got away.
The area surrounding this subway station is absolutely packed with people all day long. It's great if you're a bank robber looking to disappear, but not so good if you've got an exploding pack. There are simply so many potential victims surrounding you.
What happens is usually the bank robber will throw the pack in the car next to him, drive away, it'll detonate, and the red dye will be on his hands, his clothing, his face, and the police will be able to easily identify the person.
But Bob Strang of Strang Hayes says the exploding pack could backfire in a big city.
What happens in a very congested area like New York City is if there are other people that are close by, if there are other people operating machinery, baby carriages, older people, obviously it becomes a concern.
John Dillinger started off on a bank robbing spree that had set the Midwest trembling in fear.
Since the days of John Dillinger, law enforcement has struggled to find the right formula to foil the bad guys.
We are being shot at this time.
But in some cities like LA, the guns are getting bigger. Just the same, security is getting tougher.
They use high-tech video cameras. They use armed security guards. They have people in place that aren't wearing uniforms that watch what happens and identifying people who look suspicious. If you rob a bank in the United States, chances are you're going to get caught.
Yeah, and this guy probably isn't resting easily on the lam. That's because the statistics are about 90% of people who rob banks in this area eventually get caught. We're live in Greenwich Village. Dick Brennan, UPN 9 News. Roland, back to you.
All right, Dick, thank you.
Thank you very much, Enrique. And tonight, police say they are closing in on the vicious killer of a beloved grandma. She was stabbed and strangled and left to die. Those who loved her cannot believe this sweetheart of a woman is gone.
My grandmother was so She was a nice lady. She never did nothing to nobody. She tried to help everybody.
Family, friends, and neighbors gathered today at a shrine for 66-year-old Helen Allen. Miss Allen to those who knew her.
Everybody is grieving the loss of Miss Allen. She's a nice person who knew everybody out here. Everybody that lived down here know this woman.
Miss Allen was found by family members in her apartment at the Harry Moore housing complex on Duncan Avenue early Saturday morning, clinging to life after being choked and beaten.
The victim was found lying in the hallway area with stab wounds in the chest and neck area.
Miss Allen did not make it. Those who live there say they will truly miss the 30-year resident. The shrine sits where she spent most of her time, chatting with neighbors, helping anyone in need.
All the problems she had, she never complained about it. And people could come up to her and talk to her about their problems and what they going through down here in this old beat-up looking project. This is my mother's spot right here.
Tonight, there are reports that police may be questioning a possible suspect. The motive for that murder, still not clear.
Prisoners who claim that they are innocent sometimes can prove that they are through DNA testing. And now New Jersey will offer free DNA tests to help them. Brenda Flanagan has the story.
Well, I hurt because I cried a lot because I knew that my son did not do what they said he did.
Jeanette Cromity's son McKinley spent 6 long years in prison for rape until a DNA test proved the New Brunswick man's innocence.
It's good that they're beginning now to realize, you know, all these guys who went to prison for something that they didn't do.
And now convicted New Jersey prisoners will be able to request free DNA tests from the state attorney general's office under a new $300,000 program called the Truth Project.
If we have the capability and the scientific expertise now to conduct analysis that will give us clear answer in cases, it's our obligation to do so.
The Truth Project will offer free DNA testing to a wide group, not only prisoners, but also defendants on probation and parole, and convicted sex offenders registered under Megan's law who may want to clear their names. But the Attorney General's offer comes with strings attached. Any DNA sample that you give will be added to the state police DNA database of convicted felons. That evidence could be used against you in future criminal cases or in ones from the past. Moreover, DNA testing has already been extensively used by New Jersey's relatively well-funded public defenders, at least for capital cases where they see little impact from free DNA testing.
Unlike Illinois, where you saw virtually half of death row exonerated, I don't think you'll see that here in New Jersey.
Jeanette Cromedy says desperate families would welcome any help to avoid false imprisonment.
Because it's really bad. It ruins a family's life.
In New Brunswick, I'm Brenda Flanagan, UPN 9
News. This is Channel 11 Action News with Pat Harper, Bill Jorgensen, Jerry Gerard, and the award-winning Action News team.
Good evening. Politicians from several states tonight are sharply criticizing President Carter's handling of the Cuban refugee problem. The governor of Texas, Bill Clements, says the president has literally opened the floodgates, placing no limitations on the number of Cubans entering the United States. Today, the Cuban sea lift slowed a bit, but since last month, 25,000 refugees from Castro's Cuba have come to America. Between midnight and noon today, 23 boats filled with over 800 Cubans reached Key West, Florida. U.S. Marines are now on duty at Key West to keep order among the restless refugees waiting resettlement in the United States. The Coast Guard is urging the Cuban government to adhere to international treaties aimed at protecting lives at sea. Vessels like this one, the Dr. Daniels, were forced to take far more passengers than it has safety equipment for. And getting out of Cuba is still a problem for many. Many of those who have arrived in the States tell horror stories of being beaten by pro-Castro Cubans and secret police. And now reports that the Cuban government has stalled the sea lift operation for at least 12 hours, backing up boats in the refugee-crowded port of Mariel.
And Pat, once the Cubans get to the States, they find that the harassment continues. As we hear now from Christy Whitker, trouble may have already begun at Union City, New Jersey.
The largest group of Cuban refugees to date arrived in New York early this morning after a flight from Miami. The 95 men and one woman were met by volunteers from St. Anthony's Church in Union City and driven to New Jersey, where they spent the night in the basement of St. Anthony's Parish School. This morning, doctors and nurses who'd volunteered their services were examining them, giving inoculations and taking blood samples. But while this was going on in the church, next door in the school, this was happening, a bomb scare.
That's all they said, was evacuate the school, we're going to throw a bomb in the church.
What kind of accent did the person have?
No, he was an English-speaking person.
How long ago did this call come in? Just now?
Just this minute, when you tried to get into the building. That's why we had to evacuate the school.
While the children waited outside, police thoroughly checked all rooms and closets of the school. The church's doors were locked, and most of the refugees were unaware of the bomb threat. People on the scene told me they feared this could be the beginning of an anti-refugee sentiment in the community. But Father Michael Fuero says from what he's seen in his parish, there's no resentment.
The response on the part of the American people in the parish was a tremendous experience in love and desire to help these unfortunate people.
The coordinators here say they hope to find homes and jobs for 80% of these people by Monday, and then they'll be ready to receive some more. This even though Hudson County currently has an unemployment rate of 8.5% and Union City has a rate of 11.1%. But Father Fuero says the calls just keep coming in.
One company that called us said they had put ads in the paper for over 2 weeks, and nobody ever answered the ad, nobody wanted the job.
What was the job?
I think it was in a factory, sewing.
See, most of the people that we have, they are educated, and a lot of them have trades. 80% of our group have trades.
A new group of refugees is expected early next week, and the North Hudson Council of Mayors has held an emergency meeting and called on the federal government to help. Otherwise, they say, the crisis in Cuba will end up as a
Former
crisis
President Richard Nixon is ready to go to work in his new 15-room Lower Manhattan office next week, all at the expense of the taxpayers. Besides the annual fund of $66,500, the government has already plunged some $57,000 additional dollars into furnishing Nixon's suite. The federal government pays for office space for former presidents under a law passed in 1958.
And Pat, Mr. Nixon has granted his first interview since moving to New York to a 14-year-old student. It all began as an 8th grade social studies assignment, but quickly turned into a celebrity story at a Harlem junior high school. Tim Malloy has details for us.
Who was this kid, Michael Morris, and how did he do it? A lot of us showed up at Booker T. Washington Junior High School to try to find out today. A gifted student but the class clown, Michael became, overnight, a folk hero to his peers, a media attraction, and apparently a confidant to an elusive past president.
The building with the Secret Service agents in front of it is Richard Nixon's new home on East 65th Street. When Mr. Nixon returned to New York a few months back, the press was able to get a few quick interviews with him as he was rushed to and from limousines. After that, total silence. Then along came Michael Morris. All he did was walk up and knock on the door.
But he has to have enough income that he can afford it, because they don't pay you to run for office.
Michael left a note with the Secret Service requesting an interview with Nixon. 2 days later, at 6:30 in the morning, Mr. Nixon personally called the Morris home. Mike's mother answered. His sister listened in.
Apparently he asked for Michael Morris, and she said, "Who's calling?" And he said, "Richard Nixon." And, you know, she was like, "Who? You know, Richard who?"
Some questions, nothing about Watergate or anything like that. I thought he might get mad. So I try to ask some questions about how he get to the presidency, questions like that.
I want to say that besides all the things that he's done to us, I'm proud of him.
Mike's classmates, who have interviewed dozens of celebrities, were clearly in awe of the exclusive today.
Congratulations.
How does it feel to beat out everybody?
Feels good. Especially to beat out Barbara Walters and Mike Wallace, two of the top, interviewers. It was very good.
Mike, admittedly shy, said the former president put him at ease talking about the presidency and what it takes to be a leader. Then they turned to a subject of interest to both. For the final half of the interview, they talked about basketball.